What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. And on today's show, we are putting almost the final bow on the 2022 Dynasty season. We will be talking Dynasty rookies from the 2022 class next week. But my co-host tonight is no rookie. As a matter of fact, he is my normal co-host. He is, in fact, the man of the hour and the man with the power. Jerry Sinclair, how you been, buddy?
I have been good. It's never fun to miss you, but I had fun with Kyle. You did an excellent job, winging it as you do. I was really hoping, so I have the Lions on underneath this monitor. I was really hoping that by the end of it, I would be creeping closer to a Honolulu Blue playoffs. But the Seattle Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams decided to fart directly into my face earlier. And so now we're just hoping to break Aaron Rodgers' heart. But I'm good. How are you, man?
Dude, I'm good. As I did a couple of shows last week, flew solo. The week before, you and Kyle held it down. And then the week before that, Kyle and I held it down. But looking to get on track. So had some time the other day, and this may surprise the listener, but I literally wrote out show topics from now through the end of April into May.
Such a tryhard.
Well, I've got a nice mixture of rookie content, startup content, free agent content. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna touch on rookies next week. Maybe we'll grab a guest. Maybe we can talk Dallas into joining us to talk some 2022 rookies and some 2023 rookies. And speaking of Dallas, he's getting fired up. There'll be a lot more rookie content coming out of Dallas and the rookie rundown. A little less Kyle from the Fantasy Football Smackdown, as he does a redraft show, and redraft season is officially done. We'll see what Tyler and Lou have in the tank, but I do expect more of the guys from the Dynasty War Games as well. But dude, it's me and you, and how did your seasons wind up? Did things go good? Are you happy? Could they have been better? I haven't really talked to you. I'm not going to get too big into the Damar Hamlin. I think we handled it how we handled it. Yeah. But how were you impacted, and how'd you do?
I made money, but I don't know. I don't think I made a ton of money. I lost a lot of first-round games. The JT, it was like every team that got in with JT was good enough to not get a bye, and then he went down. So I was playing that week, and I lost a bunch that week. I won a couple, which, paid for the leagues I did, which is, at least what you're hoping for. But it was definitely not as good as I thought this year was going to be, because when we were sort of coming into the playoffs, I thought I was going to have a really, really good year. And that first week just punched me right in the face.
I wound up in three championship games, but you know what has been as much fun as that is like the leagues where, like, the GOAT district leagues do this, where the non-6 playoff teams wind up in like what you would call a toilet bowl bracket, right. Where you're playing for the 113. I know there are leagues out there where that bracket plays for the like the 101. I guess that would have worked out in my benefit had we done that, because I won 2 of those. I won the 113 in the Rockolution League. We're in with AJ and G and the guys from Australia. And then I did one in a GOAT League. So those were fun, but I finally nailed down the Ultimate Dynasty Podcasters League. And that is one that I have wanted for so long. And it's really because of the amount of respect I have for the guys in it. You're talking Dynasty OGs like Rich from the Dynasty Nerds, Tyler Gunther from the Dynasty Happy Hour, Izzy from the DTC, Shane Manella. I mean, a lot of hard hitters. I mean, legends, guys that are, been playing Dynasty for 10, 15, 20 years. And to win that league amongst content creators at that level felt really, really good to me. And then I split Trade Addict 7. So okay. We were in. So it was going to be a really great game. Okay, just going to be a really, really good game. So I was up 11. I think it was 11. Let's say 10 plus or minus 1, whatever. I was up 10-ish. It was Tyler Gunther and Doug Eddy from the Dynasty Happy Hour against your boy here. I had a 10-point lead. They had Dawson Knox, They had Dawson Knox, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase, and I had Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So let's just give Knox that 10 points, right? I think it's what he had today, as a matter of fact. So it would have been Diggs and Allen versus Burrow and Chase. Certainly would have been one for the ages, but unfortunate strike. But we split the money.
I think you got it.
Three-time champion, and I'm really proud of that one because in that league, Trade Addict 7, I lost Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp. So I lost last year's RB1 and I lost last year's number 1 overall scoring player and still managed to get to the championship. So that's how things wound up for me. I want to say what's up to Mike and our boy G from Australia.
Well, he's one of the assholes that beat me in the first round of a league. So
that's why he may be an asshole, but he's our asshole. And if you want to be one of our assholes, head over to YouTube, because if you were subscribed on YouTube, you would have been watching this show several days early. So it was in Jerry's schedule and in my schedule to be able to record this Sunday evening, as Jerry mentioned just a minute ago, during the Lions-Packers game. And on Tuesday night, Jerry, you're probably working.
Yep.
And I will be doing a 10-round Dynasty Superflex mock draft because startup season is upon us with former co-host of the show, John Ships, and the Toilets to Titles gang. So make sure after you finish subscribing to our YouTube channel, go backward to the Toilets to Titles channel and catch that 10-round startup Superflex mock draft from Tuesday night. So if you're listening to this live, you're hearing about the future. If you're listening to this on podcast on Wednesday, you're listening to this about the past. You are in a time machine currently. Jerry, do you feel like you're in a time machine?
That's a weird one. No, I don't, because the Lions are going to rip my heart out, which means that's the past, the future, and the present.
We can talk about that because, we're going to get to some guys that did well this year, some guys that broke our heart, some surprises. But, your Lions, they probably missed the opportunity when they got beat by Carolina. That was they always say the one that got away. I think that was the one that got away from your boys in blue. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's been a pretty good run. Much better than the run my Colts have been on.
Yeah, that's the opposite trend there, buddy.
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to suck, really suck.
True.
And I'm really glad the Colts sucked as everything shook out. They're going to have the 4 pick as it looks. And that loss today, as we're recording this show, that loss to Houston means Bryce Young's not coming to the AFC South. I mean, he could if no one trades up with the Bears and the Bears wind up drafting like a Will Anderson out of Alabama. Maybe, but you know what? Not only did the Colts get closer to getting their own rookie QB with the 4th overall pick, maybe they force C.J. Stroud into the division. I really don't know, but that's how it's supposed to be. And the Colts weren't tanking; they were trying to win. They were just that bad, Jerry.
Yeah, it was not a good game.
Yeah.
It was. I didn't purposefully watch it, but I had Red Zone on, and every time it came up, it just looked uglier and uglier every time I was seeing it. It was sort of like the Jets a couple years ago when they were 0 and whatever, and then won a game, and then they missed out on Trevor Lawrence, got stuck with Zach Wilson, and the history has told the story of that one.
It felt good to I was paying out patron leagues because we waited. We had several leagues. We kind of let the patrons, decide their own. Like I mentioned on last week's show, we had a couple of guys that just split the money, paid out their league dues across the patron leagues they're in, and I'm going to donate the rest to Damar Hamlin's charity. We had some that used points from this week's game to determine the overall champion. But, watching that Colts game, I'll be honest, I nodded off and took about a 45-minute power nap, which I can't tell you the last time I took between baseball in the spring and summer and then football all fall and winter. I can't tell you the last time that I had a good 45-minute power nap until today. But if you have insomnia, go to the NFL, get the NFL, that Plus app, Jerry.
And we'll rewatch that game.
Rewatch that Colt. Actually, it wasn't a bad game. They ended up scoring. I think it was 63 total points. So if you like bad football, but yet high scoring football, maybe not the worst thing in the world. Maybe.
Listen, what I'm not going to do is rewatch this game because Jared Goff looks awful so far early. Not a huge fan of that.
And that Rams win pushed the Lions outside of the top 5. So I think Jared Goff, they were already talking.
Jameson Williams, he's gone. Oh my God! Right as I talk shit about Jared Goff, look at I'm interrupting. I'm a terrible podcaster, but it's a flag. I fucking hate this game.
See, this is why you got to watch live on YouTube. You'll never know when Jerry is going to lose his shit live and in living color.
Let me just say, it was Jameson Williams. He looked great. But yes, we moved down to the 6th pick, which is whatever at this point. Because I wanted the Lions to suck this year so that they could have a shot at a quarterback. Jared Goff has proved that he's good enough. So just get talent. So I'm fine with whatever. In truth,
it's one of those classes. It's like, maybe the Lions trade out of 5 or 6. Although there's a couple of really big, stud style defensive players, after you get past the quarterbacks and Will Anderson. I know there's the tackle from Georgia. I think there's an end from Clemson. So your Lions are going to come out of it okay.
Oh, yeah.
And you never know who might fall to them later in the first round, because for once, the Lions' actual first-round pick will not be a crappy first-round pick.
Right.
Well, Jerry, let's flip the script a little bit. Let's get into good people, bad tweets. Except this week, it's going to be good people with good tweets, because it's always a great topic of conversation. Are you ready?
Yeah. Look at you. You're getting soft. You're just
no. Here's the thing. I've been blocked by some people over good people, bad tweets.
Oh, come on.
And I wish I was kidding, but I am not. And it's not designed to be mean. Yeah, I'm not like I said, do you have anything for good people, bad tweets? And you said no. I said good, because I have a good person with a good tweet. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad.
True.
But good friend of the show. I actually met this gentleman in person at the Canton Fantasy Football Expo a couple of years ago. John McGlynn. If you don't know John, search at John McGlynn. McGlynn is McGlynn. John McGlynn 75. Find him. He hosts a commissioner-based podcast and just a good overall dude. And after the Saturday night game where the Jaguars took down the Titans, made me feel good. He put Trevor Lawrence greater than about 1 million greater than signs, and then Justin Fields. And I think he's meaning for real football. That's how I took it. Jerry, when I heard that, I'll just tell you my thought and I'll throw it to you. You're never going to convince people of that. I think I'm very curious when we do this 10-round Superflex startup. I'm very curious to see where Justin Fields goes. I think people will be overdrafted. I'm actually really curious to see what the Bears do. And I think sometimes we get those fantasy, lenses on, you see like the rose-colored glasses. That is fantasy football, because all we see is the guy that's putting top 5 fantasy points from the quarterback position in our lineups each and every week. And I think sometimes we forget that, these actual NFL teams are supposed to be winning games. So I like Justin Fields. He's intriguing. We've had this conversation about a bajillion times in our patron league chat. From a fantasy standpoint, he's amazing. From a real NFL standpoint, this team's lost 8 straight games, I believe it is. He had 2 games, Jerry, 2 games where he had more rushing yards than passing yards, which is okay if you're winning the game. But when you're losing, that's a problem. He had 2 games with less than 100 yards passing this year and only 2 games over 200. So in a passing league, in a league that still has Aaron Rodgers, that has, as much as we make fun of him, Kirk Cousins in the offense, you've got to be able to put up points on the board, and you've got to be able to play from behind sometimes. So from a fantasy standpoint, he's lovely, puts up a ton of points, very interesting. Be curious to see what the Bears do this offseason. From a real NFL standpoint, that's what makes him an enigma. Jerry, what are your thoughts when you hear that?
I think Trevor Lawrence might be better for both. He's definitely better as an NFL quarterback, but you see the improvement, right? Like last year, 12 touchdowns, 17 picks, Peyton Manning comparisons, so many picks, blah, 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 blah. This year, 25-8. And they won the division. I mean, 9-8 or whatever they were, which isn't awesome, of course, but as a second-year player, and did it with not the most talented guys. We're going to talk about a couple of their wide receivers later. He is pretty much exactly what we thought he was going to be when he went unanimously 101. I am cool with that. Like you have said, we have spoken on Justin Fields ad nauseum. I think the rushing is always going to give him a nice floor. My worry about it is once the division teams figure it out, that's going to be 6 games where he is limited in his rushing ability. And if he doesn't take an immense step in the passing game, then it's not going to work out for the Bears. And in the long term, him as a fantasy asset. I don't want to overcommit to that narrative because Jalen Hurts made me look stupid. He really did. And I said all of these things about Jalen Hurts, and he is an elite QB, an elite dynasty asset. What I want to see is Justin Fields get an elite wide receiver, because that has been the difference for a lot of quarterbacks that have made them take that jump, like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and yada, yada, yada. And Tua to an extent also. Will the Bears be able to? I don't know, because they don't have the 32nd pick now. They traded that for Chase Claypool, so that was a god-awful trade that I'm sure they wish they had back at this point. So we'll see. We'll see. But I will take Trevor Lawrence and his trend more than I will Justin Fields and his elite spikes, because that's what he's getting. He's like crypto. He is either going to make you a ton of money or you are going broke week to week. And Trevor Lawrence is just steadily increasing your wealth at like 7%. And that's what I'll take. I want to see that positive trend. And the Jaguars are only going to get better, in my opinion. They have a competent head coach. We learned that team was not all that bad, and that Urban Meyer was absolutely a fucking disaster. And now we are in a situation where that is just not the case. And the Lions missed a field goal. Damn it.
Yeah, you guys got to make sure that you listen to the Dynasty WarZone when Jerry's live streaming and live watching his Lions. That is good people, bad, and in this case, good people, good tweets.
The Crip Mac on Hood.
On Hood, good people, bad tweets from sponsored by our patron. And I was talking earlier about our patron leagues. I'm going to have a special offer on the patron, not on this show, but on next week's show, because I've got to make sure that everything goes the way that it needs to, because I don't want to offer something and then not be able to take advantage of it. So if you're interested in joining the patron, hit me in the DMs if you want to know what the special deal's going to be. And that's been the great thing about the patron, is that these guys have made the season a ton of fun. I only took down 1 patron league. Jerry, did you take down any patron leagues?
I did. I took down 1. I lost in another championship.
Okay. Well, I only made it through like the first 4 on payouts today, and they didn't necessarily go in sequential order. So that's good. That's good. That means apparently as the official I guess money keeper of the league, I got to get Jerry taken care of after the podcast. So but if you come and join a patron league, I could get you taken care of if you could take down a patron league over at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. Come over, check out everybody. It's a bunch of good people. And that, again, was brought to you by patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone.
The Crip Mac on Hood.
All right, Jerry, let's get into this, man. We're going to wrap up the 2022 Dynasty season with some awards. Now, we do this every year. We do a Commissioner of the Year. Is there someone this year that you played in leagues, maybe you didn't commission? You can obviously nominate and award yourself, but who is your Commissioner of the Year out of all the commissioners that commission? Who commissioned the finest for a man named Jerry?
Okay, first let me say I don't commission leagues usually. I don't do it. I don't like to do it. I'm not good at it. I'm not that tedious when it comes to it. I did it to our man Neil. I mean, he virtually commissions all of the Patreon leagues that we do. He has,
I will accept it, but Neil is very much He and I like co-commission a lot of the leagues. He's the admin. He keeps everybody in line.
That's what I'm saying. Like he is the face of all of the Patreon league, and we're not talking about 3 leagues that we have in the Patreon. If you are unaware, we are at probably. I know we at least did P16 because that's the one I did.
That's the final number.
Yeah, that's the one I won. Just humble brag there.
Humble brag, Jerry. He actually won a startup. Now, for those that don't know, Jerry's normally a productive struggler, but he went all in and won a league. Tell us more.
With the geriatrics, because it was a bunch of old people. So it was a play on my name. Worked out like a charm. I usually hate drafting running backs, but I drafted a shitload of them, so I just kept it going, and it ended up working out. But Neil is a rock star when it comes to it, and the organization of P12, or P14, excuse me, is where we have a relegation type league where we have 4 divisions, and if you lose, you get last place, you relegate to the next division. If you win, you bump up to the next division. The loser of the bottom tier, the peasant class, which is the division that me and you are in, gets kicked out and we replace them. Now, Diddy ended up winning the premier division, so congrats to him. He actually had a really good year. Yeah, I'm in multiple leagues with him where he was the champ, so props to Diddy. But so that's a tough one to organize all of the draft picks and the very, very, very specific rules. G said that AJ will be pissed. Well, AJ won, so I can't give him credit. Neil doesn't win.
Hey, look, Neil is a hell of a commissioner, and our patron leagues would not run as smoothly as they do. I'm giving mine. I mentioned him last week. I think this is a 2-time winner for me. It's Russ, aka at Dynasty Outhouse. He handled the DeMar Hamlin situation with a grace and class that I expect nothing less of Russ. The Trade Addict 7 leagues are a lot of fun. And it's tough, man. You know, it's tough to always nominate your own. I clearly support the nomination, Neil. But I just, Tyler Gunther of the Dynasty Happy Hour is a great commissioner. JD from the GOAT District is a great commissioner. But I always start with this segment because this is my job, and I did it last week. It's Jerry and I's job to make sure that we remind you to thank your commissioner. No, you don't have to tip them. No, you don't have to send them an edible arrangement. It'd be nice if you did. Like if you won the league and you won big money, and you could send your commissioner like a nice edible arrangement or like a bottle of wine or something. I don't know. There's got to be something.
If I send Neil an edible arrangement, it is going to be some wilted ass fruit for the 8 months it takes to get to Australia.
Man, that is not a good idea for you, Jerry. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is make sure all the good commissioners in your life especially if you're like Jerry and you don't commission, the least you could do is just send them a DM, send them a text, send them say thanks. Hey, you know what? You made the league a lot of fun this year. Really appreciated it. No, the week 17 thing was a bit difficult. Whatever. Send them a fist bump emoji, something to let all the good commissioners out there know that you appreciate them because it's not easy work. All right, Jerry, who was your biggest surprise out of all the Dynasty assets that you drafted, traded for? Who was Jerry's biggest Dynasty surprise?
Bro, it is a person that I absolutely talked some stuff about in the offseason. I hated his contract. I didn't like him as a player. Christian Kirk. I mean, he didn't set the world on fire, but I truly thought that was one of the idiotic contracts of all of the offseason, and he ended up being worth it. I think he had right around 1,100 yards or something. He was a huge spark for them. He's aligned with Trevor Lawrence for the next 3 years. He's a stable Dynasty asset, and that is not something that I would have bet on coming into this season. So the absolute biggest surprise for me is Christian Kirk. And I'm upset that I was so against him because I have no shares, and I think he would be a perfect person. He's one of those perfect guys that you got for super cheap, and you can plug him in and have a championship level wide receiver 3. And I'm sad I don't have any of those. I wanted that person to be Hollywood Brown, and it, for his injury and then Kyler going down and Kyler going to be out again next season, it's not looking like that's going to play out either. Christian Kirk is exactly sort of what that needed to be. And I'm a bozo, and I overcommitted to despising somebody, and I was wrong on it.
Yeah, Christian Kirk was someone that I was advocating that our patrons, went out and got during the middle of the season. I think he's still going to be undervalued, but I think
For sure.
in about a month, so I did a YouTube short that should launch first thing Monday morning. That it's a 1-minute video about Calvin Ridley, but if you're watching this live or listening to this on Wednesday, I guess screw it. You don't have to go back and watch my 1-minute YouTube. You should. I'm going to be doing more of that, but it's Calvin Ridley is going to keep Christian Kirk's value down. The one that's going to get squeezed out there is going to be Zay Jones. Yeah. And I think this goes back to John's point about Trevor Lawrence. Not only is he good for football now, but Christian Kirk was good and a surprise. But that offense in general is going to be fun. Now, they need to re-sign Evan Ingram. I don't think people realize Evan Ingram is a free agent. I don't know why Evan Ingram would want to leave as long as Jacksonville and he can, maybe work out a 2 or 3 year contract. He's only 28. But, man, they're going to think about that offense. And as a Colts fan, I'm not excited. This is the best way I can summarize how I feel about Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. I would much rather have Justin Fields in our division as a Colts fan than Trevor Lawrence, because this team's going to be a problem and going to be a problem quick. With Etienne, another year under his belt, they're going to bring back Kirk. They're going to have Zay Jones. Hopefully they re-sign Evan Ingram, and then you're going to add Calvin Ridley to this offense and another year of maturity under Doug Peterson. This Jaguars team is going to be a problem, and have an even I think I would let Calvin Ridley come back, let that depress the dynasty value of your man Kirk. And I think that might be the way to go. But my guy's a guy that I've been advocating for a while. And I thought he was going to get this bump under the clapper. Oh my gosh, I just call him the clapper.
Garrett.
Yeah, Jason Garrett, under former Dallas head coach Jason Garrett. I thought he was going to get a bump, but I guess it took former Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll to give the boy Danny Dimes a bump. Dude, Danny Dimes, QB7 on the season through 17 weeks. I'm not counting week 18. It's ugly. It's gross. And but dude, QB7. Now, Jerry, I've always been a Dimes guy. And part of that's a little misleading, let's be honest. Kyler missed a significant chunk of the season. Lamar missed a significant chunk of the season. Watson, didn't look good and missed a ginormous chunk of the season. So if everybody had stayed healthy, if everybody had, played 17 games, would he have been the QB7? Maybe not, but I think it's safe to say he would have been the QB10. And I think Jerry lined up at like flanker in 3 games this year. That's how bad the weapons were in New York for Danny Dimes. So I'm a big fan of what Dimes was able to do. And I mean, you'll get Wan'Dale Robinson back from the ACL. Maybe they can, add a weapon or two. I know that they're not in the best cap situation. They got to re-sign Danny Dimes. But Jerry, what are your thoughts on Mr. Dimes?
No, I'm about it. I think he is another one of those guys that is an elite wide receiver away from taking a monstrous step. He impressed this year. He runs deceivingly explosively, and those are certainly not grammatically correct to say it that way, but honestly, all of a sudden that guy can take off and get you a giant chunk of fantasy points, and it's an absolutely wonderful time. He needs, that wide receiver core is shoestrings and bubble gum, man. It's just not good. When you got Richie James as your leading guy, I would love to see Wan'Dale. I think he's a good talent. I'm with you. I like it. And in truth, I have traded a bunch for him lately, sort of in my run-up as I was losing quarterbacks to injuries at the end of the season, which seemed to happen a little bit too much with my teams. And I'm sure I will in the offseason, because he's never going to be a sexy guy because his name is Daniel Jones. It's not like Tank Thompson. Like if his name was Tank Thompson, his ADP would be even higher. But Daniel Jones is a boring name. It's a boring dynasty name.
Daniel Jones is kind of it feels like your accountant.
It really does.
Your son's like, 8th grade science teacher, Mr. Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He even kind of looks like he looks like a science teacher to be quite honest. Like that ex jock that thought he was going to coach PE or something. But
Mm.
no, man, Danny Dimes was a huge surprise this year. And I don't think you're going to get that Danny Dimes discount. So I went back because I was going to thump my chest for always being a Danny Dimes supporter. And this is just something I'll share with you because I think it's funny as well, is that, nobody is ever worth what you think they're worth. Like last year is like, everybody's like, oh, Daniel Dimes is trash. Nobody wants Dan. I'm like, cool. I would be interested in having some Danny Dimes, please. And they're all like, well, not unless you're going to give me a first. I'm like, wait a second. 2 minutes ago, you hate him. But the minute I inquire that if I can get him, it's no. It's absolutely not. So it's weird, but I was very, very surprised with my man named Danny Dimes. But Jerry, who is your? That's a good award. Who is your biggest bust of the Dynasty season? Who did you have big expectations for, and who ultimately, as you like to say, shit the bed or poop the bed for Jerry?
Jonathan Taylor has to be a leading candidate. Yes.
Little side note. So you do you, but I was not going to penalize anybody for injury. I was looking for blanket. Like initially, I was going to do Darren Waller, but I'm not going to hammer someone for injury because that's who just played bad. Like who played like shit.
Well, Jonathan Taylor. I'm still sticking with that. He just was not good this year. He played a lot of games. Yes, he got hurt, but he also looked awful for a lot of games. A lot of games where he was getting 20 plus touches and coming away with 8 points for your fantasy team. He only had a couple touchdowns. He definitely didn't hit 1,000 yards. He probably at least played 11 or 12 games. He just, when you draft him 101 in a non-super flex, if you draft him, 108 or 9 or 6 or whatever in a super flex, and you come out and you drop those numbers, absolutely bust out. But if we're not, the problem is I can't do my other injury guy because I wrote 2 names down. The other one was Matthew Stafford. So he ended up getting hurt too, but he just looked like poop. He looked like he got his ring, he got the champagne, and he just did not care anymore. So yes, he got hurt and missed a bunch of it, but that dude had Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp ate. Stafford didn't do anything, which sucks because in our money league, I was deciding that I was gonna make my run for it. So I had a bunch of running backs. I had Aaron Rodgers. I had Matthew Stafford. And just by the fact that I said those 2 names, that did not play out very well for Jared.
It did not, in fact, work out for your man named Jared. I agree with you. Now, I'm going to pick on a guy in Honolulu Blue. And in fairness, he did miss 3 games. But he has nowhere through 3 seasons lived up to the hype that he's been billed, and that's DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
Now, he wasn't a Saquon Barkley level, an Ezekiel Elliott level, even a currently coming into the league, a Bijan Robinson level, 101. But there was a time where, we were supposed to be tanking for DeAndre Swift. And it just seems like Dan Campbell and the Fighting Detroit Kneecap Biters are just really a big Jamal Williams guy. Now, Jamal Williams is a free agent to be in Dynasty. But, Jerry, as a Lions fan, do you see a world where they don't bring back Jamal Williams? Because he just feels like a Dan Campbell guy.
Oh, he's coming back. There's no way around it. And here's the thing, like I'm with you on DeAndre Swift. He is absolutely a sell if you can sell him for his name value, or at least what it has been. Because Jamal Williams is the guy getting the carries. He looks better, and it's what DeAndre Swift needs. That's the bad thing about this whole situation is DeAndre Swift looks good when he touches the ball. But when he touches it too much, he gets hurt. We've seen that throughout his career. So they are actually using him to his skill set, and he is, doing as well as he can based on that. But he is not going to be Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall. He's not going to get those touches. This is a dude that's going to get 11 touches a game, and he's probably going to score a touchdown and get 45 yards, which is fine. It's fine as an asset, but where you drafted him as a rookie, where you took him in a startup, what you can get if you trade him, it doesn't match his production. So yes, I'm with you. He has not only been a seasonal disappointment, a dynasty disappointment as well.
Well, I wish I could say more. This is the team that when they're at home, they lead the NFL in scoring. I think it's 32 points a game. And if I told you that the Lions offense was going to score in the top 5 of all offenses on the season, and so let's get in our time machine. We talked about this earlier, Jerry. We're going to time travel for a second. We're going to time travel back to Labor Day weekend. The NFL season's a week away. We're drinking beers on a boat. We're hanging out. And I say, Jerry, your Lions this year are going to be a top 5 scoring offense, and they're going to flirt with the playoffs, and he's going to play 14 games. Where do you think DeAndre Swift finishes as an RB this dynasty season? What are you going to say?
Top 6?
That sounds right. And you know where he is right now coming into the week? RB 24. RB 24 coming into the week. And that's largely because he had 27 points last week. He had 27 PPR points. So I'm with Jerry. Hope is going to continue to spring eternal because, the Lions are on the upswing, guys. If it was a pendulum, you know how a pendulum swing. If you were watching on YouTube, you'd see these really cool hand motions. It's swinging now, but the Lions are on the upswing.
Listen, if they can keep Ben Johnson their offensive coordinator, I'm worried he's going to take a head coaching job, but we'll see.
I think he's a year away from that. But at the end of the day, yes, in the offseason, when DeAndre Swift in a startup is going in the top 6 to 8 of running backs, I think that's the time to cut loose of him. Because Najee's name's word, if I can get Najee plus a little something for Swift, even a second,
I'm
happy to do it. But give me the volume, give me the because if you listen to the podcast, you know how bullish I am on the Steelers. So okay, Jerry, give me your biggest, now that the season's over, give me your biggest dynasty sell.
Mine is J.K. Dobbins.
Okay, interesting. Spit.
Listen, he came back and he looked good, right? But Lamar Jackson wasn't there. And what is the biggest hindrance to the Ravens' backfield in their rushing attack? It's Lamar Jackson. So the offense is completely different when Lamar Jackson is in. And when J.K. Dobbins ran it with Lamar Jackson, dude was getting 8 carries. He comes back when Lamar's out, he's getting 17, 15, and he's going for 100 and some yards. Those are going to be Lamar's carries. And in the red zone, Lamar is going to be the one getting into the end zone too. I think it's good to see J.K. Dobbins come back from the injury and be able to play. He's a usable asset, but he's still got young, elite draft capital running back value, even though his numbers have really never added up to that. And because he came back and was productive at the end of the year, that's what everybody remembers. It's what have you done for me lately? And the last thing that we're going to know about J.K. Dobbins is going to be him getting, 100 yards or damn near 100 yards in the last month of the season. So it's the same as Swift. Him and Swift are just 2 peas in a pod for me. They were of the vaunted and revered 2020 running back class, and they have shown some signs of being really, really good talents. And not enough of it for me to want to rely on it as a cornerstone of my dynasty roster. So when that's the case, I'm going to get rid of them before that value starts to dip.
Yeah, I could agree. Going into year 4, final year of his rookie deal, you would love to have seen something more from him going into the season. For me, my biggest dynasty sell, because I think this is your last maximum cash out window, is Saquon Barkley. I think it's great that he largely got out of the season with health. I didn't look quite. I think he's in the top 5. I just a little quick pivot here. Coming into week 18, he was in fact number 5. It went Eckler, McCaffrey, Jacobs, Henry, Barkley. And I think this is going to be your last big cash out on Saquon Barkley. Could he be good for another year or two? Sure. He's had some injury issues in his career. Kudos to him. Played all 17 games. Not one game missed this year due to injury. Had a couple of winning weeks. He played well in the playoffs for the most part. 23 points in round 1, week 15, 27 points in week 2. Didn't help you out a ton in week 17 championship week with 7.3, but just a guy kind of like Bijan Robinson. We've talked about him. I think this is the last season where you could get multiple firsts for Saquon Barkley. Maybe you could get a 23 and a 24. Maybe you can get a young guy worth a first, and that would be your 2 first equivalents. I just think that this is the year. Love it as an upside play. You may not want to move him on a contender, but if you're on the fence of what you're going to be doing in 2023, I don't mind you moving Saquon Barkley. Jerry, what are your thoughts on Barkley? I mean, he was really good this year, averaged almost 18 points a game PPR, but man, just tough.
I think it's, if you have Saquon Barkley, you're probably holding out for a little bit, because it's like, what are you going to get in the offseason is a question. Like, let's say you have Saquon on a team. I'm going to guess you're not going to go after picks if you're a contender, which if you had Saquon,
if I can get a veteran, I'm going to wait till my next guy because I don't want to spill my biggest buy of the offseason. But if I could get like what I thought would be close to equal points, like if I could get Swift, I mean, I know it sounds odd, like we're talking about selling him, but if I could get Swift and like something good for Barkley, like I think I could maybe get a 24 first. I don't think I'm going to get a 23 first. Maybe I got to throw in a third or something, but I'm happy to take the year discount on Swift. I don't know. It's tough, but I think I'm always about maximizing, right? But I don't know. It's hard, but I just don't want to be left holding that bag. I don't want to look back and have a Zeke Elliott situation on my hands that I can't get, because a lot of services, including Fantasy Pros, the nerds, a lot of people have him in the top 5 of a startup. I would love to be able to get top 5 of a startup value for him.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay that much. I think I probably trust Saquon a little bit more than you. But I'm always down to trade a running back for a shitload. So I'm always going to be in. And I think I know who you're going to talk about next, so I'm not going to bring that person up in a trade. But like that person plus, we'll loop back to it. Yeah, I'll definitely take that. But G brought up Kyler and Mixon. He cashed out on them. I'm 100% in on cashing out on Kyler, and I have been absolutely a Kyler guy. The problem is he didn't help you in the playoffs this year. And he's not going to help you next year. So you're just sitting on him. This is a Deshaun Watson thing, except for Deshaun Watson's value tanked. I'm going to guess Kyler's doesn't tank to that extent, but it's sort of the same thing. And I actually traded a Mixon share for Derrick Henry. I don't even think I got much plus. It probably was a little bit, but not much, just because I feel like they're both sort of on that same time scale, and I'd rather trust Derrick Henry in the short term than I would Joe Mixon, outside of a 50-point game or whatever the hell he got. But yeah, I'm fine on moving either of those guys. Mixon isn't special to me anymore. And Kyler, I don't know what Kyler is. And even not knowing, I still have to wait to find out. And I hate that. And he got Christian McCaffrey for it, who's another old guy who I would love to sell, but I would take them for sure. I would much rather have that, especially if you won the league because of it.
Well, you're buying, man. Who are you buying?
Who am I buying?
Yeah, who are you buying? Who's your biggest offseason buy?
I
have me to go?
I have, yes, because we're sharing a name. So
okay, so who do you think we're sharing? Who do you think I'm buying?
Najee Harris.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that was the guy I was talking about that I would trade Saquon for and get Najee plus. But anyway, who do you got then?
I have Nick Chubb. Now, if I'm a contender, I am going to get Nick Chubb because he's going into year five. I'm kind of bullish on this division in general. I do think Cleveland will be better with Deshaun Watson, and I had it pulled up. Excuse my mouse click there for a second, but not been great. But he's been 10, 11, 12 points. I mean, he's the RB6 on the season. If I'd have asked you where Nick Chubb finished on the season, would you have guessed RB6? He just like is steady Eddie. And I think I would rather have him as opposed to a lot of these guys. I think he's going to continue to be solid if you're a contender. If you're not a contender, I would love to get Najee Harris. I would absolutely love to get Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris' season's over. So why do you have Harris on there? I mean, like I said, I have Chubb on there just because he's quiet. He feels under the radar. Fantasy Pros has him as their RB 10 in a startup. I think that's good value. The guys in that area of him is Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson are the two below him at 11 and 12, and DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams are the two ahead of him. Out of that cluster of 5 guys, I can't think of a world where I would rather have Swift, Williams, Jacobs, or Stevenson over Chubb. And if that's where the value is, that's where I'm going to mention him. But you said Najee Harris. I know why I like him. Why do you like him?
I listen. You not only do I believe it, but you've also convinced me that Pittsburgh is going to get much better.
Well, they're going to fire Matt Canada.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very young offense, and they're all learning how to play together, and they have improved. Kenny Pickett, he looks a little bit lost at times, but he also can make some good things happen. Najee Harris just looks hurt. He's looked hurt and he's looked off all year, but he's going to get tons of work. And he was a popular pick to go extremely early in redraft leagues and startups and did not perform that way. So he's a buy. And Jonathan Taylor, to an extent, I know I pooped on him a little bit earlier, but same thing. If somebody is willing to part ways with a guy like him, I'm going to take it every single time. But he's just going to get tons of work. He's a good pass catcher. He can do everything you need. That offensive line is just bad and it needs to improve. And that's it. So, and I trust that he's still under contract for multiple years, which is pretty much exactly what you can hope for out of a running back in Dynasty. It's honestly one of the premier things. Production aside, extreme elite production aside, somebody's contract is probably the second most important thing when it comes to a Dynasty running back.
What I'm looking for when I create a buy list is like whose situation is going to get better. That's why I'm so bullish on the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of these guys are first and second year guys except for Deontay Johnson. I'm anticipating an offensive coordinator change. I'm anticipating that whatever offseason resources they have are going to get poured into that offensive line. The defense is still, I don't want to go as far as to say elite. It's still really, really, really good. I don't know that it's 49ers good, but it's a top 5 defense in the league. I think that's pretty much the case. I think that they've got their stars like Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt under contract. And, I think if I were the GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would be putting my first 2 draft picks and whatever free agency dollars I have in that offensive line. I would love, because Jerry, I'm a Deontay Johnson guy.
Yeah.
Always have been. But I don't know that he's a 1. I don't know that he's an alpha. I don't think George Pickens has it between the ears to be an alpha. I think he has a talent. I think he has the game at times. I just don't think he has. And I'll be honest, between how his behavior has been both alleged in college and what I've heard and been alleged in the pros, if you're Mike Tomlin after fostering that type of behavior for several years with Antonio Brown, are you going to foster that behavior again out of a wide receiver?
Right.
I mean, when you're a knucklehead in Pittsburgh, you wind up in Chicago to the Bears. They trade you to the Bears. It's the Steelers, and I really like that offense. That's why I like Nick Chubb. I think that they're going to continue to, pour what assets they have into that offense. I think they're going to come back, and I think that's going to be a good offense. And why wouldn't you want assets in the AFC North? You think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to slow down, Jerry?
No.
Okay. We are already seeing that Baltimore's been a solid, with Lamar, Baltimore's a solid offense. Pittsburgh we believe in. And now that Deshaun Watson's playing football again and going to have an entire offseason, I mean, the AFC North used to be known for its, the AFC North, it used to be known for its shootouts or defense, and now I think it's going to be known for some shootouts. I think there's going to be good fantasy production there, Jerry.
You know who's another cheap one that
Who's
I want to
that?
mention? And it's a guy that you have definitely hated. It's Nick Chubb's teammate, Amari Cooper. So he's going to be 29. He had a pretty good season. I think he probably had about 1,100 yards or something, close to 10 touchdowns. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. He's under contract for at least next season and the year after that. Deshaun Watson is under contract for that same time period. There's not – DPJ is a nice, very cheap buy, but there's not another alpha sort of wide receiver. I think you could do worse, especially as he gets older. So I think he's 28 this year, so next year he'll be 29. So he's sort of hitting that age where he's in his prime. He's got a quarterback that's only going to get better. And he's cheap. And he's an afterthought because everybody has Amari Cooper fatigue because he's been in our vernacular for the last decade.
He will not be 29 until June. So and these guys do, right? If they play at a high level into their early 30s, if you get Amari Cooper, now, I don't know that he'll be in Cleveland because he has like no dead cap on his contract and he can save him $20 million. That could be, but you have a tendency to where if you extend this guy, you can make it very cap friendly for the next couple of years to keep him. But you're absolutely right. 28 years old, will be 29 in June. Where do you think he finished? Wide receiver what on the season?
14 probably.
10.
Okay.
Top 10 wide receiver, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. Playing.
He's not going to get drafted there, and his trade value
absolutely
is not indicative of that.
So as we're winding up the show again, we're going to do the same thing next week. We're going to do our biggest rookie. So we'll be talking Breece Hall, Jerry's boy Kenneth Walker, Jameson Williams, Drake London, Garrett. We'll be talking all these guys next week. Same kind of thing. We'll be doing our rookie awards next week. But Jerry, as you go into the offseason, and you're getting ready to do startup season and trades and stuff, can I read you the wide receivers? Let's go 10 through 15. Are you ready?
Okay.
Amari Cooper, he old, boring. Mike Evans, wide receiver 11. He's old, he's boring. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 12, and missed a game. Mike Evans also missed a game. Christian Kirk, you mentioned him, wide receiver 13. Jamar Chase, he missed several games with the hip injury, so he was wide receiver 14. Your boy DK Metcalf. My point is that these veterans always have a way of producing. Oh, by the way, people are always telling you in Dynasty, you got a 27, 28-year-old wide receivers. Let me read you the top 3. Justin Jefferson, fine. He's, I think, 23 years old, maybe 24.
Also
Tyreek Hill, same age as Amari Cooper. He's 28. Devontae Adams, he's 30. Stephon Diggs, he's 29. A.J. Brown, I think he's 26-ish, somewhere in there. Guys, at the wide receiver position, we just talked about Hill, Adams, Diggs, Evans, Cooper, Lockett. 28, 29, 30, if you're doing your startups and you're doing like a win now or you want to contend the first year of your league, don't be – we didn't even mention Cooper Kupp, who will also be 29 or 30 this coming off season. Don't be afraid of these guys. It's like we always feel like we have to, take a gamble on a Brandon Ayuk who had a fine season.
Yeah.
It startup season last year, if you'd have taken – I don't know what their ADP would have been, but I think it'd be fair to say that somewhere in those mid rounds of a startup, hey, you can go, if you're watching on YouTube, you can wait till Tuesday. And if you're listening on Wednesday via the podcast, you can go back and watch the Toilet to Titles mock draft I'm going to do with these guys on Tuesday on their YouTube channel. But Jerry, don't be afraid of the old guys.
No. Listen, I say that the Patreon league that I won was the one I drafted the old guys in. The
geriatrics. Dude, running back the exact same way, right? Everybody will, everybody's like, gotta get Bijan Robinson, gotta get him. Look, Austin Eckler, he's like 27.
He's an alien too.
Christian McCaffrey, he's like 28. Josh Jacobs is in year 4. Derrick Henry is in year 8. Saquon Barkley finishing year 4. Nick Chubb finishing year 4. Tony Pollard finishing year 4. Aaron Jones, 2017 running back class. The only quote-unquote young guy is Ramondre Stevenson. And Ramondre Stevenson's like 37 years old. All right, I'm just kidding. He's actually 24. He'll be 25 next month in February. But you get my drift. You know, people will tell you Dynasty's no country for old men. There's a movie reference. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just want players to help me win. If I want young guys, you know, maybe that's something that Jerry, you and I need to come up with a startup strategy, because we have some startup shows coming up down the line. But just kind of talking out loud, I think if I'm in a startup, I'm going to do everything in my power to get Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb or like A.J. Brown. I think those are one of the 4 guys, and then I'll figure out the rest from there in a 1 QB.
I think you're right.
Because you want to have that, because, I mean, again, it's boring, but if you've had Mike Evans since he was a rookie in 2014 in Dynasty, I know that's very rare. It's very rare to have one guy on the same Dynasty team for like 9 years. But if you've had Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs or, you know, Mike Evans, you've had a very, very, very useful asset. Now, somewhere along the way, he got boring. It was just boring and passe that he was going to give you 1,000 yards each and every season. Ho-hum, another 9 touchdowns. Boring. Because right, everybody wants the new sizzle, right? Everybody wants the new hotness, Jerry.
Yep. And they'll overpay for it every single time.
Yes, they will. But those are conversations for future podcasts, Jerry. I'm going to get you out of here. It's halftime of the Lions-Packers game. You can go hop down on that soft seat there in the living room next to the beautiful Mrs. Jerry and your pup. You can watch the second half of this game. We'll come back next week and we'll do the 2022 Dynasty Rookie Awards. How's that sound?
I'm so excited, and I'm excited to just dive into rookies.
Dude,
we've got the last college football games tomorrow. If you're watching this on YouTube, if not, it was a couple days ago. Hopefully, TCU.
Who you got? It's TCU. TCU plus 13.5 last I looked.
Yeah, I mean, I think Georgia will win, but I'm going to root for TCU for sure. But yeah, so all of the tape is going to be available. You know, watch your best content creator, watch the games yourself, whatever your strategy is. You know, it's fun.
Jerry, they stuck around this long. You stuck around. Dude, that's the beauty. I was telling my son this. He was asking because, you know, he played fantasy football at a serious level for the first time this season with his buddies on the high school baseball team.
Did you look at his team? Did you judge his team?
He did terrible, but he refuses. You gotta learn. He refuses help, so you got to learn. You got to learn the hard way. But he asked me, "What's so great about Dynasty?" I was like, "Because it never ends, dude." I was like, "We're gonna get like honestly." I was like, we'll like take a bit of a break and we'll enjoy just football for the sake of football over the course of the next month. We'll watch the playoffs. I was like, but we'll talk a lot about these rookies, these guys coming in from the NCAA to the NFL. We'll get super excited about them. I was like, then we'll start doing startup leagues in March, which is always a great time. I was like, then also in March, you hit free agency right around St. Patrick's Day, right around March 17th, we're going to
become outrageous.
So by the way, the running back and tight end classes this year, free agency, are bananas. Wide receiver, not so much, but going to be a lot of movement, going to be a lot of dynasty value shakeups at those 2 positions. Then you go right into April with all rookies all the time. It'll be mock drafts. It'll be, you know, rookie drafts. Then you go into May, right? Like that first weekend of May, which is like right after the NFL draft. Like the entire month of May, we'll be doing rookie drafts. This league, that league, it'll be glorious. Then in June this year, we're gonna throttle it down and let the guys of the DWZ Football Network, but there'll be a show every Wednesday. You know, you'll probably now if the guys want to create more content, they will. But but you'll probably get every show once a month, right? You'll get one rookie rundown. You'll get one fantasy football smackdown. You'll get one Dynasty War Games. You'll get one Dynasty WarZone. And over the months of June and July, we'll throttle it down just a bit. There'll still be a ton of YouTube content because that's where those Dynasty shorts are going to be. I will stream them to TikTok too. Your boy Memphis TikTok star. Oh, yeah. One of those gimmicks. But you know what? A lot of good stuff coming from the DWZ. And I want to thank the patrons. I want to thank Matt over at Not Dead Yet. Hate Brand Goods is no more. He's rebranded it Not Dead Yet. What does that mean? It means if you're listening to this podcast, you're not dead yet. And there's still a lot of things you can do with your life. There's still a lot of things that you have left to do. I'll cover all that in a future episode. But Jerry, what do you have as I shut this one down?
Nothing. Just enjoy football now.
Yes.
We have stressed, watching scores for the last 4 months. Just enjoy it now. Now, you can't enjoy my Detroit Lions. You can't jump on their bandwagon, and I apologize for that. And if you did start to, this is what they do. They punch you in the face right before you get something nice. But, just enjoy the playoffs. Football is awesome. We're down to the last little bit of it, and it's always a sad time when football season ends. So just enjoy it. Just watch it. Enjoy the games. Have a good-ass time.
I think his Twitter handle is @WyattFFB. And pretty good follow on Twitter. And he was like, for all you people bitching about the Colts and the Broncos on Thursday night, I bet you're wishing you had Broncos and Colts on a Thursday night. It won't be long, gang. It won't be long. So this is something I actually recommend for our patrons. I recommend to let your brain cool off. Now, you shouldn't ignore a trade. You should not be active in your group chat. But don't be afraid just to sit back and do a little DFS. Don't be afraid to sit back and, maybe, a little two-team parlay or something. Just relax. Go out, start putting together, some notes about each roster. Get ready for a big February. And that's what we're going to do. But please head over to YouTube. Subscribe. You don't have to turn notifications on. You probably should. But if you don't, you can still subscribe and help out Jerry and I. You can leave a rating and review. And Jerry, that's all I got.
That's enough, my friend.
That is enough. So on behalf of that man, his name is Jerry. You can follow him at JerrySinDWZ. You can follow me at DWZ Memphis. You can follow the show everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, especially Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow us there. And we'll be back with more content real soon. And remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just here to make the world a better place for fantasy football. Say goodbye, Jerry.
Peace.
No, you're supposed to say goodbye, Jerry.
Nope.